All right, welcome to the Political Strategist Podcast. I'm just playing, make some people mad. Welcome to the Church Dropout Podcast. My name is Alan. I'm the host. Church Dropout is a podcast. We talk about issues, topics, and teachings related to faith, life, and culture in ways that are sometimes funny, sometimes serious, but always insightful. If you have not already, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment below. Keep the conversation moving forward. Okay, so after the elections, it's apparent that many Christians are starting to feel politically homeless. That is in part due to believing that politics is the way to change things. Some Christians are confused. They don't know what to do, what to believe. They're kind of trapped in between this idea of nationalism and Christianity, and they don't know how to engage the two. And that's mainly because each one requires complete loyalty, if we could be honest, right? And so, some people have chosen to state their position even more, to dig down even deeper into what they feel is the right thing, or what they feel is the way, things ought to go. And I'm talking about Christians here. I'm not talking about secular society. I'm talking about Christians. And it's been very interesting just to see and hear some of the things that are being said. And it continues to, for me, reiterate that what we're experiencing is not Christian and it's not Christianity. It's just not. And we need to wake up. Like, we need to wake up and think perhaps this is God saying, I want my church to be the church. Right. But Christians are running headlong into this. But I wanted to talk about some of the things that I was reading and hearing, and some of the things that the usual suspects were saying, all of the, people that I've been talking about over the past few weeks. They've been, talking a lot about, politics, and then just, other folks, regular folks, and some of the things that are being said, online. So I just want to kind of mention a few of the things that were said, and then we'll go from there. And I'm not saying names. And the reason why I'm not saying names is really because I think a lot of this stuff just sums up the mindset of what we're experiencing right now, right? It's not solely important of the names as much as the idea is important, right? I mean, again, like, some people are going to say, well, you need to state names and all that type of stuff. No, not necessarily. We get caught up in our favorite commentators. We get caught up in names. And most of the time when you're arguing with people, you're not even arguing the point. You are tearing down an idol. And so I don't think there's really a need to name names. But yeah, so I just want to mention a few things that were said. So somebody posted, I heard, and there was a caption, a graphic that showed this, that 83% of women voted for Mamdani, who's, I believe, to be the mayor of New York. And on social media, a lot of Christians, some very popular Christians, were saying, like, listen, don't move to the red states, don't move to the red states. And I immediately thought about, and some of these Christians, actually minister to women, supposedly, right? They minister to women, and they're saying, listen, don't move to these red states. We don't want you in red states. And these are Christians, right? And the thing that I, immediately thought about is, you have one person over here who's diagnosing the problem. 83% of women voted for Mamdani. And the reason why they voted for Mamdani, this person said, is because, they look at the government as their husband. Right. So they're diagnosing the problem on one side. And on the other side, you got someone who's giving an answer to what they think or the best solution to that specific problem, which is to further separate. And what's interesting is these are both Christians, right? But here's what we're not hearing, right? I mean, if what you're for, you believe, is centered on Christ, and these individuals are lost, then why wouldn't you want them to move into your state or closer to you, right? How are they going to hear the gospel? How are they going to hear this message that we are claiming to be true? And let me also say this, because man, there's just a lot of Twitter thugging going on, right? Like these Christians they get mad and they go to Twitter and they just spew all of these things, right? And I'm telling you, a lot of this is because they have no real sense of connection to people in the real world. They're celebrities and they act like celebrities. They make statements, but they don't understand really what's going on with the common Christian, right? But anyway, I say that to say 83% of women voted for Mamdani. And then one Christian is saying the reason why is because they're looking at the government as their husband. And the other one is saying, no, don't move to a red state. But both of these individuals are supposed to be Christians. How would they hear the good news if we're constantly separating ourselves from the people who need to hear it, right? I'm telling you guys, this is not Christianity. This is not Christianity. So I heard one pastor, he said, as a result of this, he said, God over government, right? And in relation to the election, of this same individual, he said God over government. He took one of the quotes of Mamdani and said, this is Christianity, no problem is too big for God to solve. No problem is too little for God to care about. And then he made a statement about socialism, and then he put God is greater than government, God over government, right? But this same pastor continually preaches that Christians should align with the Republican Party, right? So he's saying God over government when it comes to the Democrats. And then he's saying God and government when it comes to the Republicans. And this is how you know this stuff is just not Christian. I'm telling you, it's not Christian. It's so inconsistent. And the reason why it's inconsistent is because it's not really based on scripture, nor is it based on the foundation of Jesus. I'm telling y'all, it's not Christianity. I heard another commentator say that 50% of Democrats don't believe in God. And, that's not surprising. I wouldn't doubt it if there's more. And said 93% of Republicans do. So 50% of Democrats don't believe in God. 90% of Republicans do. I highly doubt that. He says they believe in God because they follow God specifically, right? Republicans do what God says. He said this: we build families, raise children, create life, and the left does not. And that's how he's summing up the Republicans being Christian, right? I'm telling you, man, this is not Christianity. I would argue that 93% of Republicans are Christian. I think 93% of Republicans are Christian nationalists, but that's not Christianity. And again, I to be fair, I think the number is probably lower even on the Democratic side. That people who are claiming to be Christian really have nothing to do with Christ. And I'll talk about this in a later video, but, people have kind of erected their own personal Messiah. And that's what these people tend to do. But anyway, here he says that Republicans follow God because they follow, which is what he said, follow God's first commandment, which is to be fruitful and multiply. And so this is what Republicans do. And that is his evidence that Republicans believe in God. And again, this is not Christianity, right? He doesn't even understand what God was doing. And it's just so interesting that people will take the Bible and relate it to culture. To be honest with you, people want God. They want God's ways without God. And that's how you know this is just not Christian. Right. And so all over, social media, I'm sure you've seen this. If you're on social media, I'm sure you've heard it from political pundits and, but these are Christians. And I read that the greatest threat to Christianity is Islam. That's what was posted. This was posted prior to the election. This was posted after the election, right? The fear of Sharia law being instated in America. Which shows, that, those people who claim to believe the political process really don't believe it. Because how would that happen with the checks and balances? But they think that Christianity is the greatest. I mean, that Islam is the greatest threat to Christianity. And if you're a Christian and you're not worried about that, then there's a problem, right? That's not the greatest threat to Christianity. It's not. The greatest threat to Christianity is this powerless false gospel that's based on enacting law and not the grace of the gospel. It's based on the law. And I'm talking about, when people say Christian values and all of this type stuff, they're really talking about the law of God and not the grace of the gospel. And it's based on this idea of people becoming Christ-like before they even come to Christ. We want people to act Christian before they are Christian, right? We want a Christian nation that heeds God's law but doesn't love God, right? I'm telling you guys, this is not Christianity. The greatest threat to Christianity is not Islam. The greatest threat to Christianity in America is Christianity, right? I'm telling you. This is not Christianity. I'm also seeing this online too, that people are judging America. I'm sorry, people. People are saying God is judging America. And I know that sounds good to some people. It just, it sounds harmless, but it's really not. I mean, it's putting this focus that like God is focused on what America is doing, that this is his primary focus, and that God is looking at America and he's going to judge America. Listen, America is not the church. It's not the church. It's not the church. It's not the new Israel, right? We are concerned with God judging America. We need to be concerned with whether or not God is going to judge his own nation, because God will judge his nation first, and that is the church. But you got people who are saying God is judging America because they've melded America into Christianity, and I'm telling you, it's not Christianity. Now, here's what I think the greatest threat to Christianity is. I think the greatest threat to Christianity in America is this false Messiah that's wrapped in an American flag, that fights for American democracy, who worships power, privilege, money, and influence. That is the greatest threat to Christianity, is this false Messiah that's being worshiped, who's wrapped in an American flag, right? Now, listen, I hate these categories of, well, you hate America. I don't hate America. I love America. I just love Jesus more. Listen, let me say this. I've said this before, but and you guys could believe it or not, but I'm not against a whole lot of things. I'm just for Jesus, which automatically places you in opposition to most ideas. That's why I'm not angry when it comes to a lot of this stuff. Like, I don't get all upset and, because I'm for Jesus. That is what I'm doing. I'm for Jesus. But the greatest threat to Christianity is not the pressing of other religions. It's not Sharia law. It's not American values being diminished. It is not Western society crumbling. The greatest threat to Christianity is a Christianity that's false, that's not being lived out, that's being abdicated to other governmental functions and roles, and that's been morphed into a Christianity that's unrecognizable by Jesus. And one final thing here. I believe the church has lost its first love, right? The church has lost its first love. It's unrecognizable, right? We're building up what Christ has tore down. We no longer worship in spirit and in truth. We have localized Jesus, not only in places of gathering around the world, but we've localized him in our own sect, S-E-C-T, and communities. We have hijacked Jesus and morphed him into all these other ideas. And I'm telling you, it's not Christianity, and it never was. It never was. It never was Christianity. This idea of a Christian nation being built on Christian principles. Listen, and what America has done in relation to that is problematic. And we don't want to address that. We just want to address the greatness, but not how the greatness has come about by power and force and influence. And so, listen, if we don't pivot, the church will soon find itself under the thumb of the same government that it currently worships. Like, I don't know what Christians are thinking. Like, I don't know what we believe. We are a means to an end in America. Like, we're a means to an end. We're playing a part to further things. This is why most of the things that we're concerned about as Christians, when it comes to how politics are lived out in America, do you honestly believe that those things will be fixed? If they're fixed, what else is going to be left on the platform to vote for? We're a means to the end. And if the church doesn't pivot, it's going to find itself under the same thumb. It's going to find itself under the thumb of the government that it worships. You look at these other countries and they got state churches and all this type of stuff. Well, listen, if we keep serving the government the way we serve the government, then we're going to be there too. Listen, Christ stands alone. He occupies his own throne. His kingdom reigns. And we need to live like it. I mean, that's if nothing else comes from all of the fallout that continually happens after people don't get their way, because that's really what's happening. After all the fallout, the one thing that we should recognize is that there's no solution to societal issues, to the problems that we face, that the way we're currently going about it is not working. There's only one solution, and that is Jesus, his gospel, in the hearts and the minds of people who express that in their everyday life. We got to stop being impatient and wanting people to love God before they know him. We got to do the work of ministry, not vote the work of ministry. So anyway, we'd love to hear your thoughts and your comments. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Church Dropout Podcast. As usual, drop a comment below. Keep the conversation moving forward. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Do all of that stuff. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon. God bless.